Good.
Richard, thanks for joining. We just went live there, Richard. So yeah, hello everybody. Welcome back to the after party. And we've got Richard. We might have other people.
Oh boy.
You're
It was a
worth
pretty
it,
good
Richard. Though
show.
no, that's
I liked it a lot.
you're definitely worth having, man. We appreciate your contact.
Oh, you embarrassed me. I love you.
Appreciate you saying that. So you thought the
So
show
we're
went all right then, Richard? Yeah, we're very entertaining.
I thought it went really well. I thought you were challenging without being like overpowering or obstinate. I thought you did a really good job.
Yeah, that's what I aim for. Ask questions and don't be an asshole. You were very, very polite in the way you said it, but yeah, just ask questions, don't be an asshole. That's sort of what we aim for. Bill, if anyone else wants in, the link is in the Pigsty General Chit Chat. And if anyone else wants it and can't get in there, send me a message of some way or tag me. And yeah, with 3 more slots, people are definitely welcome to come in. Richard, how's yourself? Did you have anything on the night or yesterday or?
Well, I'm trying to schedule Jim Majors and a few others. I might entertain Jill, but I'm not sure. I mean, he's offended so many people purposefully that it's hard to be nice to him. You could probably lose subscriptions by being nice to Jill.
Well, I wouldn't like to think that anybody would take a subscription away for an hour of their viewing time. You know, and if they didn't like it, don't watch, because you would 90% of the time have fantastic conversations. And even your last conversation with Jill, you were referred to as the Jill Whisperer for at least a week afterwards. You really kept the
Yes.
conversation on track. You were very good at that. But still, look, man, it's your channel. I just think the audience is bored with Jill. He's just an asshole. I don't even like talking about him on the channel here myself. He's
But
just
that's kind of my point. Is he is so terrible and purposefully so because of his spiritual beliefs and what he believes the Bible is saying.
No, I don't think it's his
I would
spiritual
love for
beliefs. I
him to
think
have
it's his attitude. I don't think it's his spiritual beliefs. I think it's his fucking attitude. He is right, you're wrong. That you can be a Christian, you can be an atheist, you can be anything, but he has the opinion he's right, you're wrong, and he'll shout over the top of you. He'll scream over the top of you, he'll laugh at you, and he doesn't listen, he just waits for his turn to talk.
Well, there's a big difference right there. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that as far as like he does not care what anybody else has to say. So when he said he's having a discussion or a dialogue or a debate, he's not.
Yeah.
He's largely disagreeing with it. He's hoping you say something stupid so he can actually have a relevant point. But by and large, he just wants to share his opinion, and he uses like I think it was Matthew said he had a poor attitude. He uses the Bible to justify his poor attitude and treatment of people.
Yeah, well, they
So
did that for
that like
slavery, and we all
suggests
know how that went.
Yeah. So that suggests that he has just found a way to justify his own beliefs and his own attitude, not so much that it's based in a spiritual text.
I don't think so. I think he has a political viewpoint, and I think he has a "this is my life" viewpoint, and I use religion to substantiate it all.
Guaranteed.
Right.
That's why he goes shut up liberal. He has shows called Shut Up Liberal, episode 1 to 5, I think he's at now. But man, people used to.
Yeah.
I was one of the people who used to go into his live streams and troll him for fun. Saturdays and Sunday mornings, afternoon was just by 12, 1 o'clock for me, and I used to do that. And even his numbers on his own streams aren't there anymore. And now it was 90% trolls and maybe fucking 10% people listening, but even them aren't there now. I would pop in, look how many viewers he's got. There's only 2 people there. He's got 6 or 7 views. Even the trolls are bored with him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe I should just give it a rest.
Well, I mean, there's all about the I haven't had my shot of either A, holding him accountable, or B, is there any possible way I could get through to him with any positive seed of truth? And I told you my opinion in the email that I think he has a very reprobate type heart, which means it's beyond salvation. It's beyond anything because of whatever has happened in his life has made him that damaged.
Right.
I don't think he is the person he claims to be as well. I'm as honest as an open book. You've got in trouble for being as honest as you are. Richard, people have looked at you underneath their hats the weird way because of the things you've said. But we're all honest. Sure. We all are who we are. I don't think that man portrays himself online. He plays a character. And whether it's
but I don't think he even pretends to be a nice guy or pretends to be a holy guy. He just wants to be able to sit there and say, yeah, I'm a horrible sinner, but I still get to go to heaven because I believe that Jesus died on the cross for my sins. And I think someday he's going to be sorely mistaken when that doesn't happen.
I generally think that we should change the topic because that man's just a waste of fucking airtime. And he's watching us right now going living rent-free in your brains, liberals. So, fuck you, Jill, and your closed mindset and your lack of ability to talk to anyone. Go fuck yourself. Watched any good shows lately, Richard? No?
Well, I watched some stuff on MathPig. That's quickly becoming one of my favorite channels.
Did you get the hang of the download and mirroring?
Nope. I'm technologically retarded. That's how it is.
Because it isn't fair.
Accept that.
It's not fair.
I need someone about half my age to coach me is what I need.
Well, I could download them for you and send you the Google Drive link, but then you have an Apple phone, so you'd have to get a Google account, and then that would probably freak you out. So it would just be easier to teach you to do it yourself. Because it's not fair, man. You do have a playlist of all the shows that we do on a Thursday. I don't know if you've seen them or not, John. Interesting shows, very good fun. I think the last one we did, I was more worried about it being because it didn't start with a good mood, but I think it was the best show we've done so far, Richard.
I think it turned out really well, yeah.
Yeah, I think it turned out really, really well. I've been looking into that Universe Sandbox and getting that. It's £23, so I'll maybe get that next month whenever I get paid. And we can actually run a full simulation. We can do it live. You can set the rules and all the rest of it, and we can have a go at that.
Fun.
I did go into the small print now. It only does Newtonian physics. It doesn't do Hawking physics. So, but then we're talking about planets, and planets are basically Newtonian physics anyway. So Newtonian gravity. So we should be okay. You know, we should be okay. But there is that limit. Just to make you aware of that, there is that limit.
I didn't know there was such thing as Hawking physics.
Well, there's the Hawking description of gravity, and there's the Newtonian description of gravity.
Oh my gosh, more stuff I'm going to have to learn.
It's really simple, man. Newtonian gravity says that gravity is a force. As in, you throw something up, there's a force that pulls it down. Hawking's description of gravity is a warping of space-time. And you actually fall in...
I thought that was Einstein's theory, not Hawking's.
Yes, you're totally right. Sorry. That's the bongs and the weed. This is why this is the after party.
Oh, now I'm better. Now I'm better. Okay.
There you go. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, they're both brilliant people by all means.
Yeah, it's Hawking radiation is what I always, because people talk about this, and that's...
Yeah, Einstein's the one that says that time and space tell matter to move.
Exactly, yeah. It's a different thing. Thank you
and
very
matter
much.
Time and space to bend, yeah.
Thank you for as the fucking guy who's got math in his name, you think I wouldn't have made that mistake, but... yeah.
Well, we have so much information that it's not hard to... sometimes I say orange instead of green or green instead of orange. I know what the hell I'm talking about in my brain.
Yeah.
Wrong word comes out anyway.
It does. It just happens. And it's all good.
Yeah, well, the program one's in Newtonian gravity and not Einstein gravity.
Right, yeah. You were thinking about relativity.
Yeah, I was thinking relativity. So, well, that's that. So that will be fun. I'll have a wee play with it, Richard, and get the hang of it so I can actually build a solar system. Although I do think that our solar system is actually pre-built into it with all the weights and speeds and all that sort of stuff.
That'd make it easier.
If you look up Universe Sandbox 2 on YouTube, there's a lot of gameplay from it. And I watched a guy take a 340 meter across asteroid and crash it into Earth at light speed. And Earth didn't move off its orbit. It basically caught fire for maybe half of it, but it didn't move. So the actual size of the asteroids may have to be a damn big size, and that thing was traveling at light speed.
Right.
But it'll definitely make the game... I don't mean to come across as an asshole. Look, I've got a game that disproves you wrong. Ha ha! it'll be fun to do. We can play with it,
Well, I expect that I would need quite a bit of help um, just expressing what I believe is true. I mean, I'm about 7 years old now, and I only have a rudimentary idea about chemistry and physics. I've never been educated on these things, so it's at least difficult
Well,
for
that's
me.
the wonderful thing about this game, or it's actually known as a simulator. A lot of it's preloaded,
Hmm.
and we can just tweak with shit, So you can literally set up an asteroid to fly at it with a target. It's a circle with a bit in the middle, and the guy kept aiming for Australia and then started to pick in Canada for a while. You can aim it wherever you want, different angles, different speeds. And because it's a computer game, you can whack the speed up. He had at one stage a grain of sand hitting the Earth at 1,000,000 light speed. Just to see what would happen, man. And a grain of sand hitting the Earth at 1,000,000 light speed, not that it's possible, but that fucks Earth up. Properly fucks Earth up. It just proves that speed is very relevant,
Yeah.
it can be tiny, 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 but if it's traveling at the right speed, you can still get the same effect.
I want to talk about John's stuff
Go for it. Ask John a
because
question.
I
That's
don't
why
know
you were here,
nearly
Richard.
enough.
This is what the after party's for, bringing people in, and yeah, ask John questions.
Okay, what would be a good way to go with what's in my head and
Just
make
for
it
the
into
chat,
actual
sorry, just to
language?
interrupt. Unplug from Worldly Thinking is John's other channel on his secular. What would you say, John? Describe it there real quick, just so
I just said
everybody.
it's a secular. It's a way of explaining behavioral health from a secular standpoint, which means when I had similar videos on the Messenger Reveals, I would include a theistic theme to it because it was a channel for theists.
Yes.
So I separated it because atheists who would wander over would be like, "Oh, this is all about you need to be a Christian to have any of this," and I'm like, "No, that's not what it's saying." But you're just drawing illusory correlations. I decided to separate them. So Patrick and I do the secular psychology, self-help, talking about behavioral health over on Unplugged from Worldly Thinking. Everything theism in the Bible, we keep on Messenger Reveals.
Well, it's good to keep things separate so your point can not be. Oh, he's doing that from a
Misconstrued.
Christian point of view. But that's the link.
Yep.
If anyone doesn't understand, Unplug from Worldly Thinking, that's the other channel. Throw the man a sub, give him a like, do all that shill shit.
Yeah, John, would you say why you came up with that name for that series?
The Unplugged from Worldly Thinking.
Yes.
Because I think that the world by and large as a whole has a lot of mythological or belief systems that aren't true. Like when people sit there and say we have free will, it's a largely accepted truth that people hold on to that just has no factual or basis behind it. So when people sit there and say, yeah, we all have free will, even Christians be like, we have free will. Some atheists and agnostics, we have free will. I'm like, no, we have zero free will. We if you want to talk about it from a philosophical standpoint, it's hard determinism. From my standpoint is if you understand how and why you do what you do on the inside that dictates the external response, then you'll better understand yourself and therefore be able to create real changes rather than trying to act the right way. You become the right way. So the worldly thinking is the world's teaching you a bunch of bullshit about your life and who you are that's not serving your life well. Like, for example, that you have a right to be angry. That's one of the most stupid, asinine statements that people say because anger only serves people well in a life-threatening situation.
Mhm.
So if you're allowing yourself to get angry in non-life-threatening situations, you're impairing your ability to think and reason in those moments clearly. So, while we all have the ability to feel anger, the right fucking really doesn't matter. You have that, when people assign responsibility, like, oh, you pissed me off, you hurt my feelings. Well, the truth is your perception and judgments have made you feel that way in regard to how you're perceiving what they've said or done. It's not that they're doing it. It's your perception of it. It's your judgment of it. It's your viewpoint of it. It's what you think it means that creates the emotional response within yourself. So if you want to change how you feel, you need to change the way that you judge things and view things. But the world doesn't teach you that. The world teaches you pissed me off. You hurt my feelings. You betrayed me. But the reality is you've allowed those things to occur because that's how you view the world. Everybody else is responsible for how you feel.
As a slight tangent and something similar, my work situation has recently changed, and it is better in some respects and it's not so better in other respects. But when it did happen and we discussed it with there's the owner and then the general manager. The general manager had a meeting with me, but then the silly bastard left his computer behind, his wee laptop, and I rang him after he'd left, and I says to him, look, I'll drive and I'll meet you. And I went out of my way to give it back to him after getting this news. And he says to me, look, I really appreciate you doing this happening after what's happening, Robbie, and all this here. And I looked at him and I was like, well, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to get angry and shout at you? Would you prefer if I fought you in this? At the end of the day, if I screamed at you for an hour, is the situation going to be any different? And he just sort of looked at me and goes, appreciate your honesty, Robbie. And that's just the way it is. I could have flipped the lid, went mad, done all this. Situation's still the situation it is. You make the choice.
Yeah, and if people don't realize the truth behind our actions and behaviors, which means I always talk about it in 4 different internal processes. I say there's a biological process, a cognitive process, an experiential process, and an emotional process inside your inner being that dictates your actions, behaviors, choices, decisions, and expressions. So if you focus on just changing your actions and behaviors without focused on the determinants that create them authentically, then you're really trying to act in a way that's not authentic to your inner self. There's some incongruence there. And then it's like, well, I was doing well for a while, but then I just, too much happened and I lost it. And I'm like, well, you didn't focus on the right thing. You were trying to act a certain way rather than become a certain way.
They did the exact same thing to another fella in another depot about 2 months before they did it to me. And he spent about 2 weeks. He downloaded an app on his phone and all with the passwords for the computer in his office, and he would disconnect them randomly off the internet. He took pictures of the fucking new manager that we replaced him with, and he put a baby's head on it and put it in the fucking internet and stuff. And I was like, man, I understand you're pissed off and all, but he's 38. I was like, you're acting, you know what I mean? It just wasn't my thing. I was like, if you want to go and do that, you go and do that. I was like, but that's just not the way I react to things. You let these things annoy you, go for it. You want to go and do that, go and do that. That's...
Well, I always say that's how people are programmed since they were, infants. Their mirror neurons pick up on the behaviors and mannerisms of their caregivers in the beginning.
That's first 5 years, their brains are like a sponge, man.
Very much so. Very malleable is the word we use. Is they just develop those things. That's how you determine your accent and your inflection and your dialect and the language you have and the mannerisms and facial expressions you have. But then it's not just that. It's not just learned observation. It's what you're told is right and wrong. You're given a framework for what your early morals and ethics are going to be by your parents and caregivers. And then at 2, you're starting to develop these things. And then at 5, 6, 7 years old, you get put into a public school. And now you're learning in a whole new environment with a whole new set of rules.
I get where you're coming from, man. Yeah, like for my wee girl's Christmas last year, we bought her a black doll. And my granny said to me, she was there on Christmas Day when we opened up the presents and all. And she was like, why did you buy her a black doll? I was like, that's the one she picked, Granny. We went down through the shop. We had 2 in her hand. She picked that one. What the fuck does it matter, like? It's implanting that. No, but you get what I'm saying.
I heard a rumor that there are babies who have dark complexion. I heard that rumor once.
Yeah, it does be about, like. And it was like, why'd you buy a black baby? Fuck off, Granny. Calm yourself, like. It's a doll.
It's a child.
Yeah. She wants to play with the doll. Let her play with the doll. We want her to know no difference between anybody. She goes, no, everybody's... Oh, it was just very funny. As I mentioned earlier with John, I showed him my license plate. As a reaction to that license plate, my granny actually said to me, why did you have to buy the number of the beast? So funny. She's very old school. She's very old. She's 83. She refuses to give up her license, and she's very independent, still lives at home. But when she hit her 80th birthday, she was, I've spent 80 years being nice. I'm going to just say what I think now till I die. I was like, okay, Granny.
There you go.
I learned that one about half her age.
Yeah.
Hey, John, what do you think of this following statement? That I used to be a very, very angry person, but it was realized to me one day that fairly recently that my anger was a result of repeated frustrations, which were based in my misunderstandings of my situation or the people around me, and me having expectation of others that was unreasonable.
That's very, very accurate. I mean, your statement's accurate. I mean, it's a lot for people to process and break down, because then it shifts the responsibility from somebody who may be an assailant, or somebody who's, treating you poorly, treating somebody you care about poorly, perhaps affecting you in negative ways, physically, monetarily, emotionally, mentally. But by and large, our perception of things and our judgments of things and our expectations of things generate our emotional consequence by far. That's both. I mean, it's not just me who believes this. I mean, you look at people like Aaron Beck, who's the grandfather of cognitive behavior therapy, and you look at Albert Ellis of rational emotive behavior therapy. They're both of the opinion that our irrational beliefs and our cognitive distortions impact our consequences in life, not necessarily the stimulus that we view or see. So yeah, what you said is accurate. Just it's a different. I mean, that was a lot of information and a lot of thought you put into that statement, though, for sure.
Well, it happened to me, so I can speak about it now. Prior to 2011, I never could have put that sentence together. No way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that's truth to me. What you just said, I can prove that stuff through models of human behavior.
Sorry, I was doing stuff on my phone. Bill's looking to get in, Bill Ashby's looking to get in, but I don't think the man is being able to work out StreamYards. I don't know. If it makes you feel any better, Richard, at least you can get on here.
I feel a little better.
Yeah, his birthday, I think he's turning 40 soon, so yeah, he still can't work out StreamYards. He didn't work out Zoom, and then now he's not having luck for. Sorry to pick on you, Bill. Sorry, but that's just the way it is.
What's he using? A flip phone?
I think he's going to go and try and find his PC. I don't think he has a flip phone. Oh man!
Oh, sure Bill, you're fucked now. StreamYard on a flip phone. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, you're stuck in the flip phone times, man. I remember, in all honesty, my dad having one of them suitcase phones that you used to have, the suitcase that you carried with the like a old style phone on a fucking cord with the suitcase.
Uh-huh.
I have a memory of him standing on the top of a fucking bridge, sort of holding it. Hello.
Those are the old satellite phones.
We'd be damn old. Well, yous are both older than me, but yeah.
I wonder, Richard, biologically, are you older or am I older?
I am 51 in May.
And I'm 49 in January.
There you go.
And
so there we go.
37 August coming.
37. That was a good year.
I'm just a baby.
1937?
No. When I was 30, I'm sure. 30, I don't know what 19. Depends on what you're talking about in 1937.
Richard, at 37, according to you, you weren't even born.
No, not the year 37. The year I was 37.
The year you were 37, you weren't even born.
No. Oh yeah. Well,
the 7 years I think is from.
You keep saying that you're 7 years old, my brother.
Yeah, I'm 7. Yeah, it's relatively true.
So
biologically,
I mean, before that, I was pretty good with a chainsaw and pretty good with a bulldozer. But as far as my love for humanity, that was pretty absent altogether.
Do you want to get a flight, man? It might be cheaper for me to pay for a flight for you to come over than it would be for me to pay a fucking man to come and cut down the 7 trees that I have in my backyard. You know that? Are you any good with a jackhammer? I have to lift some flag tiles. I'm installing a new bathroom down the stairs and have to lift the flag tiles to put a sewer pipe in. You any good with a jackhammer?
Actually, I'm pretty good with a jackhammer, yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah, we'll look into that because it might be fucking cheaper the price I'm being quoted.
Shoot, I'll even buy the chainsaw if I can ship it home with me.
Oh, we've got 3 chainsaws, man. My dad has about 60 or 70,000 pounds worth of tools he's been collecting since he's been about 20. So we've.
What's the chainsaw brand in Ireland?
Oh, I couldn't tell.
What's the one to have? What's the best one?
Ask me that on Friday after I go to my ma's on Thursday. I'll make a point of going to one of the 3 sheds we have of tools and checking it out and seeing. But he's a very old-fashioned sort of man. Like he recently bought, well, not recently, he bought a motorized hacksaw. He's making a set of gates for the bottom of the garden, and he went and looked at all the new ones. And he's a tight-ass motherfucker, but when it comes to tools, he'll spend more money than is needed. But he could not find a modern one that was equivalent to what his standards were. So he travelled, I think, 100-odd mile down south somewhere, found a busted-ass one that was the same that he had when he was in his mid-20s, took it home, took it apart, and now he's on the lookout for a motor for it. He has completely blasted it down, repainted it. He painted it with what was in the fucking garage as well. He didn't even go and buy specific paint, so it's nearly a neon blue. It's like, why did you paint it that
If I could
color?
ask you a stupid tool question that's completely unrelated, and sorry, John, but
No
now you
worries.
got me curious. When you say motorized hacksaw, does that mean like a hard blade that moves forward and back, or does that mean a long loop-shaped blade that rotates?
It's to be strapped to a table. It's got a blade that goes up and down, and you would feed it the metal. You know, you set the level and you would feed it. It goes on a table. Big thing. Blade goes up and down. I don't know the names for these things.
Okay, that tells me what I wanted to know. Thank you. I appreciate your patience.
Perfect. Yeah, some old-fashioned fucking thing. And as I say, I asked him why he painted it neon blue. It was like, because I bought 2 cans for your brother's car, and then his car died, so I had 2 cans of it sitting there. Okay, right, we'll go with that.
That's great.
Bandsaw, possibly a bandsaw. Thank you, be mindful. Possibly that, maybe. I don't know. Everything's old.
Well, a bandsaw would have a loop-shaped blade, and what you're describing is actually a table reciprocating saw where the blade just moves up and down.
It's definitely one of them.
Okay, it's definitely one of those.
Definitely
Not
one
sure
of
which
them.
one.
My father is, well, he's actually my stepfather, but as of a couple of years ago, he's been my father longer than my actual father was, and I'm more like him than I am my biological. But, like, he has a knife that he keeps in the garage. I don't know if I should be saying this online, but he has a knife that he keeps in the garage. It looks like it comes from 1910. The handle's all sort of half rotten away, and if you're cutting stuff in the yard, like cutting rope or things like that, you know, it's in his toolbox. And I asked him one time where he found it, because it's very old. There's no way he went and bought it. And he obviously a digger driver, and he used to do the rivers. And you know where you would dig the river out and dump it on the side if there's flooding, you know, you're expecting flooding.
Okay.
Deepens the river and raises the bank. You know, that's what they do over here. And he noticed something shiny when he dug it out. And he went and found it and cleaned it and took it home. And I was like, right. And he was like, that's a great knife, Robbie. It's good old steel. That steel doesn't blunt. I don't need to sharpen that like I have to fucking sharpen your mother's kitchen knives. That's a great knife. Like, and I said, did you ever think why it would be in a canal in a sort of Republican area where someone could have been killed in the mid-80s and thrown the knife into the river and it's a murder weapon? I don't think about them.
Maybe.
It's good steel. Good steel. That's all right. Okay. No bother. It's totally off tangent, but that's, yeah. I don't know. I'm rambling now.
I heard a joke about Ireland, you know, and the religious factions and how they've been somewhat or even severely combative. And I don't know the facts of all that, and I'm not trying to comment on it. And I don't know enough.
Yeah, I
but
commented
the
on
joke
it too
was the joke was a man walking through the alley, and someone puts a gun to the back of his head, and he says, "Are you Catholic, or are you, what is it, Protestant?
Yeah.
Is that the other one?
Yeah.
Are you Catholic or Protestant?" He says, "Oh, I'm an atheist." He goes, "Okay, you're an atheist. But what kind of atheist? Catholic or Protestant?"
It's funny, man, because I've been asked that when I've said that I'm agnostic and mentioned that I'm from Northern Ireland. I've had, well, are you Catholic or are you Protestant? Because that's it. I've been asked that. It has happened. It's funny, though, because there's a guy I know, and he runs a rally school just outside Belfast, where you go and you like drive old classic cars, you know, around a track, go sideways and stuff for a certain amount of money for an hour or whatever. And
Yeah.
I can't remember. I think he's Protestant, but he walked through Belfast. He used to live in Belfast, and he's of the age, so he would have been 18, 19 in the mid 80s. And he had to walk home one day, and he went home through the Catholic area, and then got a beating because he was a Protestant. And then when he walked out of the Catholic area and went into the Protestant area, there was a group of Protestants that seen him walking out of the Catholic area and didn't believe him that he was a
beat him
Protestant.
for being
And they gave
Catholic.
him a fucking hiding as well for being a Catholic.
Wow.
You know, he went home, but in saying that, after he went home, his dad did let him illegally drive his Ford Capri then back and forth to his friend's house after that. So he did get to drive
Wow.
after that. But yeah, that's obviously 20, 30 years ago. But yeah,
Still horrible.
I talk about Northern Ireland too much. It's just a shithole. We don't have a government. We don't have a fucking anything. It's life as it is, man. It's just what I've grown up in, you know. No, there's Bill. Bill came over from England and he says, when I came to visit you, my dad was like, keep your mouth shut. I know what you're like. Don't tell them you're an atheist and do not tell them you're an antichrist. No, anarchist, not antichrist.
Went a little bit. I mean, that's claiming a lot. Yeah.
Do you see Bill's comments in the chat?
Good steel is good steel. Bill's funny. I like Bill. Bill I actually put up with for a couple of days. I invited that man over. He spent some time with me. He's met my mother. That wasn't meant in any sexual way or anything, you know. He said hello to her. I took him to the house, you know.
You shouldn't have to clarify that, Math.
Well, you all went fucking quiet. I didn't know what way you were taking it, you know.
Oh, I was reading Bill's comments. I have no idea what you even said. You know, so
that's a good answer, Richard. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
So
anytime I'm here for you, brother.
Yeah, man.
Is there another atheist live stream going on somewhere? Everybody bailed out, or did you just get all your questions answered with me?
No, we just got boring and started talking about murder weapons we found in the river. Everybody's here for you, and we started talking about that. So back to you. We talked mainly tonight, man, in the main show about, to be honest, about the secular part of what you do. Would you mind talking a wee bit more about your religion and your religious views? Maybe bounce a few things off Richard, because you are both atheists, or would you mind spending a wee bit more time on that just to give everybody a wee bit of a second view from that?
I'm up for that.
Sure. Who do you want to go first?
Richard, ask that man a question. I go for it.
Okay, so I'm really trying to sort this out in you, John, that it seems that some of the things that you say might indicate, and I could be completely wrong, that it's more of a your view of the Bible is more philosophical in that you believe it contains great wisdom, but not necessarily would you assign a physical value to the hero of the story and or the Christ.
I can't say that's true. I grew up in traditional mainstream modern day Christianity, both, Methodist, Baptist, Pentecostal, been in many different churches growing up, into my 20s and early 30s. When I had my quote revelation, my vision that I had that, shifted my belief system on who we were as human beings, why we are the way we are, I stopped believing in everything. I really was like, I'm not believing anything unless I go, substantiate it for myself. And I really started taking this understanding of psychology and human beings and pushing it up against things like religion and philosophy and psychology itself. And when I was doing that, what I believed to be true about us as a human race was disproving other religions, was finding hold in what other religions would say, including when I would read stories of the Old Testament and the Hebrew people. When I read the stories again of Jesus and his teachings and his gospel, I was like, there's no flaws in this. So, whether Jesus was real or not, when people made that argument, like, oh, he's mythological, he's real, or whether it was a collection of personas or archetypes or not, to me, it's a bunch of bullshit. His teachings in his parables are by and far 100% accurate, 100% true, and 100% valuable in terms of how to become a better human being. So I was able to sit there and say, this Jesus guy.
Would you agree with all them statements, though? You say that it could be an accumulation of people you could say about that, but instead of saying them teaching or these teachings are correct, you said his teachings. So you do put them on a person. You do expect their I would agree that
I
there's a multiple of things and multiple of people and a multiple of group of stories that were all accumulated together. And given long enough, everybody will fucking figure everything out, but put them in a book. But you said his teachings and all that are correct. I wouldn't agree that all of them are correct. I got the
like
implication.
I haven't found anything that Jesus was quoted to have said that isn't true, isn't valuable.
Well, I'm not going to quote the Bible because that's not what I am. And I fucking, man, it's
Sure,
been that long. I read it twice in my life.
sure.
First when I was maybe 7 or 8 in fucking Sunday school, and then again when I was maybe 10 for when I was doing training for junior soldiers. I took more of it in the second time, obviously. But, oh, we got Bill. Right, Bill, I'm bringing you in. Just be quiet. I finished the story. And I may have lost my track. No, what I'm saying is, I'm only one. What I'm saying is, like, Jesus is known, I can't give you a Bible verse, but he says that all the old rules still stand. All the old laws still stand. So that's definitely true. Then we go back to the 10 Commandments and all that sort of shit. And we must hate gays. And we must hate that and all that. Now, I know
Well,
him directly,
yeah.
he didn't say anything on the LGBTQ community, but he did say, you know, that's just an example, man. I'm just pulling that example out, you know.
Sure, let me respond to it.
I just think that saying that everything he said is correct is wrong. I would agree that there is some things that you could take from the Bible as making a complete sci-fi reference. There's parts of the Book of Ori from Stargate fucking Series 11 that you would agree with, and you know they are good things to
Sure.
live by. But it doesn't mean that the Book of Ori is something that we should start handing out to everybody. Just because the book portrays good things. Now I'm starting a tangent, but the statement that everything that Jesus says is a good thing, I would disagree with that.
Well, you disagree with it because of the statement that you just made is not a true statement as far as the Bible goes. So, while I think that you're paraphrasing it to a degree,
And it's
you're
the after
also
party and I'm halfway down the wine, right? Continue.
right. So when you sit there and say he didn't come to abolish all the old laws, all of a sudden you're generalizing you're generalizing his statement a way to say Jesus agrees with the Torah and with the Mosaic law. And I would say Jesus absolutely disagrees with Mosaic law as evidenced by scripture. And also that Jesus only said that he didn't come to abolish it, but to fulfill it. Meaning that because he was a perfected being, because he could not sin, could not do wrong, could not make mistakes, could not fail, he was a fulfillment of the 10 Commandments, which was God's law.
That's okay, but what I'm saying
If
is
that,
the statement that everything that he says is right, I would disagree with that. I was only using that particular thing as an example.
Well, we can go through them one by one
But you
sometime when we're
can't
not.
say
can I
that
just
every single thing
say
that Jesus
something?
said is right, man. And I'm not going to pull atheist memes out of my arse, but everything Jesus said isn't right. You know, there's the whole germ theory thing, and you know we could go down different
Did you
routes,
say,
like, but
did you say
make
Jesus talked about germ therapy?
germ theory,
Oh, germ theory. What does that mean?
washing your hands and things like that. You know, again, I don't
The germ
know.
theory of disease.
Yeah, what things
But
that he
So
said were against
Jesus
that.
said,
Bill, thank you. Jump in and explain this better.
sorry, no, I was just
No.
gonna
I'm
say,
asking you
like
to.
Jesus said that it's what comes out of a mouth that defiles a man, not what goes into it, which completely disregards the germ theory of disease. Because in actual fact, it's what you put into your mouth that can defile you and that can make you ill, not what comes out of it.
But
Yeah.
he was not speaking physically or literally. He was speaking in an idiom. It was
Right.
it was metaphorical. He's basically saying that it's not putting food into you that makes you a horrible human being. He's saying it's the things that come out of your inner nature that would come out of your mouth, therefore, that make you a horrible human being. Because basically they say generally what you feel on the inside is how you project yourself on the outside. So what he's saying in that statement is true.
By your interpretation.
Well,
When
Christians
I'm
would
sitting there
take
talking,
that.
if you look at Jesus's entire gospel, his entire gospel was about inner transformation.
I'm just saying, man, the only point I'm trying to make is the fact that you say that everything that he said is correct. All I have to do is find one that's not.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's it.
And,
I don't
and I
think
won't
that
be apologetic
anybody
about
on
it either.
any topic.
I will give it.
I don't think that anybody on any topic can say I know everything.
Well, when you go into, it's not about knowing everything, it's about being perfected in your nature and being for the things that you teach. So, like, while I'm an imperfect human being and I could do something that would be insensitive, what I teach you about human behavior is not inaccurate because of that. So, moving on, when in Jesus in the book of John, chapter 16, he talks about everything that I've said to you is figurative. Everything he taught his disciples was figurative. It was an analogy, it was an idiom. He used those things to describe the nature of, if we want to change and be more like God, we have to do it from the inside out. So all of his parables were about inner transformation. When he said, repent for the kingdom of heaven has come near, he was basically saying, change and transform the way that you think and reason, because the inner nature for what you transform into is the kingdom of heaven, is the thing that's holy and set apart from the world. And if you change these things on the inside, what you do on the outside will be authentic rather than imitated, like the Pharisees and the Sadducees. And his own disciples did not get his parables often. And he would basically say, why are you still so dull? Meaning, why are you still so ignorant? You've been with me all this time. Why are you not still understanding these simple things that I'm sharing? And then
That
they were like, well, Jesus, why do you speak to the people in parables?
as
And he
someone who
was
was
like,
born and raised and all
I mean,
in
that's a reasonable
the
point. That is a reasonable point, is it not?
yeah, it
If
is
people are
like
not understanding him, it is a reasonable point to say, why are you speaking in parables? Why not just make it plain and clear? If you're saying we're not understanding, why not
so
make it as easy
yeah,
for us to understand? Is that not a reasonable point?
it is reasonable, but when people are given information that they're not ready to process or handle, and they have ill intentions, they use those things for their own power, pleasure, and prosperity, despite how they affect and harm other people. So if you sit there and broke down to somebody, here's how and why people fall in love. Then you could have somebody who was, a man whore or a woman abuser, sit there and go use those tactics to manipulate and cajole women into falling in love with them so they could use them, or sexually, or for financial means, or for other reasons. So we know that people, when they're giving insight and information into how and why things are, use them in very negative ways. And I think when Jesus shared his stories about inner transformation and change, he understood those same things. I know when I've taught people, especially early on when I was first learning and understanding how to articulate these things, 10, 12 years ago, I gave people insight into human behavior, and they were using them for their own selfish ambition. They were using them for their own means. So why he did it, I think it was to protect the truth from people who would abuse it. Because he basically said this, he goes, the secrets of the kingdom of heaven, which was that inner transformation, were given to you, but to others I speak in parables, so that though seeing they don't perceive, and though hearing they don't comprehend. So that was his message of why he spoke in parables. But even if you ask Christians today, why did Jesus speak in parables, they'll go, he spoke in parables to tell a story that had a deeper meaning, to help people out. And that's clearly the opposite of what the scripture says.
I mean, a lot of the issue with scripture, though, is the fact that it is open to interpretation, right? That people can read the same piece of scripture, and some people can interpret it one way, and some people can interpret it a completely different way, right?
That's evident by the 30-some thousand denominations of Christianity.
Yeah.
is it that high?
And also,
Is
if we just quickly going back to when Jesus said that he came to fulfill the law, and you said that he came to fulfill the 10 Commandments. So he said fulfill and not supersede, right?
He said, don't think, because people were sitting there, were talking about the rules and laws.
He said fulfill and not supersede, right? He didn't say supersede, he said fulfill, right?
He did. He said specifically, okay, I didn't come to abolish the law, I came to fulfill it.
Right. Okay. So then that still means that the laws apply, all of them.
Well,
and it's
not Mosaic law like a lot of people will interpret it to mean.
According to whom?
According to Jesus.
Well, he didn't actually say that.
Yes, he did, because later on when he talked about the law and he was talking about the 10 Commandments specifically, he said the law can be summed up in two basic laws. He said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. So he basically said you can take the 10 and you can fulfill them, those 10, with these two. So when
Okay. Well, if that is the case,
so he's not talking
then
about, and in fact he refutes Mosaic law on several occasions, because people
right.
were
So
talking
then
to
if
him
that
about divorce, and he was like, hey, Moses allowed you to get a divorce because of the hardening of your hearts, but it wasn't meant that way from the beginning. So he was refuting even Mosaic law from both Deuteronomy and Leviticus.
I mean, it just seems to me that if you wanna go down the line of he came to fulfill the law and therefore that those laws don't apply, and you want to say that because he said honor thy father and your mother and love the Lord thy God, and they're the only two commandments you require, then if you take that reasoning and that logic, then murder is absolutely fine because you don't have to follow the other of the 10 commandments.
You would not murder somebody if you
Stealing's
loved
fine.
you would not murder anybody if you loved your neighbor as yourself.
Well, I mean, that's not necessarily true.
Well,
That's
let's
not
look,
necessarily true.
let's look about the breakdown. If you said love the Lord your God, so this person that you hold in complete perfection and reverence, love them with all your heart, soul, and mind, which means everything that's part of your being only has care for that. And also apply that same deep care towards your fellow man. How can you steal from somebody you love in that way? How can you murder somebody you love in that way? How can you covet somebody you love in that way?
I mean, that seems like a lot of mental gymnastics to me, to be
It
honest.
seems very
It really
plausible,
does.
and it's just the
In your
problem.
opinion,
Well, is all this is opinion, so I mean that's
yeah,
not a
of
refutation of what I'm
course, of
saying.
course.
I'm not trying to be right or wrong. I'm trying to help you understand why I hold to Jesus's teachings being perfected in the ways that they do. I'm understanding things like I understand how and why we are as a human race. You know, what causes us to act and behave in the ways that we do. So when I hear him teaching in the parables that he used and the idioms that he used, they fit that framework perfectly rather than people trying to attempt to take them literally. Like never once in any of Jesus's teachings did he ever say he was going to die or pay a price for all man's sins. He was never going to atone for everybody's sins. That was an interpretation that came later that had nothing to do with him. So what all I'm trying to say is look at his gospel that he taught, look at the parables that he taught. There's nothing wrong in those. There's nothing imperfect about them. Like he told people if they didn't understand the parable of the sower, they wouldn't understand any of his parables. That's what he told his disciples who didn't get it. Because they're like, hey, Jesus, explain us the parable of the sower. And he's like, how are you going to understand any parable if you don't understand this one? Because it was a very foundational teaching.
I mean, having read the Sermon on the Mount several times, there are a few things in that if you actually did completely the opposite to what Jesus said, it would actually be far better and far more relevant to a modern society.
Tell me about that from your perspective.
Okay, so I don't know the Sermon on the Mount off the top of my head. So if you want me to, I'm going to have to sit here and read through it for a minute and just pick a couple out. That
I think I'm okay with that exercise.
All right, cool.
Sammy, just to say while he's doing that, welcome. Remember Sammy Jenkins. Thank you for joining in the stream. This man's in Australia.
Greeting.
So the time difference is very appreciable. What is it, 9 in the morning there?
Just after 11.
Oh, well, that's not too bad. You've got to lay in, you get up, you've had your breakfast, cup of coffee. You're more alert than the rest of us.
Absolutely. I have a question.
I'm just trying to look up what the
Man, your connection is always wonderful. Is he still there? Oh, he is.
Are you?
Yep,
are you
I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Are
Yeah.
you looking for the right scripture? It's in Matthew chapter 5.
Yeah, so how does that work in with the only? I think
Come on, you're the freshest of us all here.
Are we having internet problems with both Bill and Sammy?
Well, Bill
Nice
should
to
be
hear.
all
Mine-
right.
well,
Bill,
I'm using a phone, mind.
but you know you're coming through good, Bill. Some of the phones have a better mic than a fucking laptop mic. Yeah, I think we've lost Sammy. It does happen sometimes. He has a bad connection. There's a new computer in the way. He has a good internet connection, but the computer can't handle all this bollocks.
Not to unnecessarily or unneededly support the messenger reveals, but if a person were to go to look through the text and in an internal critique, say, well, what does the text say about this? The topic of the apostles understanding the parables. You can find where the hero of the story, Christ, says, I have meat to give you that you cannot eat, digest. So I've been giving you to the milk. I've been giving you the milk of the word to this point, and still, even now, you could not understand what I would be saying if I spoke that stuff to you.
What? Say that again?
It seems that even the apostles didn't understand at a deep level, and although Christ had more to offer them, they weren't able to understand what he was saying, so he kept it
Right.
simplified for them.
Whose failing is that, though?
Well, it depends
It's
on how
not
you
theirs,
look at
is
it and
it?
what the exact situation
Say
would
that-
be.
I mean, if you're not understanding something, it isn't the failure of the student, is it? It's the failure of the teacher. In
Well,
all
it's a
Well,
situations,
the
shared
teacher would be a
responsibility.
failure. The teacher would have failure, as you're pointing out, if they couldn't find a way to express it at all, but was expressing it in a simplified manner. So I don't know that the teacher was failing.
well, if you're talking about somebody that's supposedly an aspect of God who is perfect, then they should be able to provide that in a manner that you can understand, should they not?
Well, if somebody's unwilling to learn, no matter what you have to share, and they're always being skeptical, or they're always going to be doubting, or they're always trying to find a chink in the armor because that's the nature of their heart and their motive, there's going to be very little that you can learn. Like if your worst enemy tells you a joke, you're not going to think it's funny, no matter how good the joke is. And on that note,
Right, but we're not necessarily even talking about enemies. We're talking about people that,
so
I mean,
yeah,
like you said,
yeah,
those
he picked.
apostles, right?
He
People
picked. He didn't pick scholars to be his disciples for sure. He picked
Right.
people that I believe he thought had an open heart to learn, but it was taking him probably a little bit longer than he had
Okay.
hoped.
So then doesn't that completely negate the previous statement?
Of what?
The statement that because you've just said that they clearly were willing to learn. So when you said if you're trying to teach people who are unwilling to learn, which one is it? Were they willing to learn or were they unwilling to learn?
I believe
It
they
can't be
were.
both.
I believe they were willing. Those people were willing to be. I was
So
just
then that
giving you.
completely negates the previous statement, right?
And no, I was talking about something completely different in that. I'm talking about as far as with the disciples themselves, they were willing to learn, but they weren't bright people. They weren't scholars. They weren't learned people. And he was sharing with them things that they hadn't heard before in a way that they hadn't heard before. Remember, he's surrounded by masses of people and he's sharing these truths because he realized people with open hearts would consider them. He realized that people who were really hungry for truth and logic in those ways and were looking for something would find it, not the person who was using it for personal gain or to look good in front of the church or look good in front of other people. He realized that people who were really interested, like when the rich man came and said, what must I do to enter the kingdom of heaven? And Jesus looked at him specifically and said,
Sell all the goods and give it to the poor.
sell all your possessions, give it to the poor, and then come follow me. Guy walked away. And it wasn't necessarily that everybody needs to sell their goods, but he saw the nature of that person's heart was built up on riches and wealth. and the guy was unable to let go of those things. So his motivations for asking, what must I do, weren't sincere and authentic. But as far as his apostles, he took enough time with them and over a period of time in his 3.5 years of ministry to where they finally did start to understand. They finally did start to get things. They were still ignorant about some things for sure. But like I said, even in the things that he taught them in the beginning, they weren't getting it. And it was written in multiple books that was what was going on, especially with the parable of the sower, which you can find in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. But did you find the things on the Mount Sermon on the Mount yet?
To be honest, I'm more focusing on actually talking to you rather than reading it.
Oh no,
I'm
I'm sorry. I thought there was something specific because I'm not. I don't memorize the Bible. I just know when people bring stories up, like, oh yeah, I've read that too, and this is my understanding of that.
I actually have another question. You were talking earlier on about the whole angel and alien thing.
Yeah, I never looked that up.
In what sense do you mean by alien? Do you mean by the modern interpretation of what alien is, i.e., a being from another planet, or do you mean an old interpretation of what alien is, i.e., just someone that's foreign to your country?
It was basically that alien and angel in the quote cosmos were synonymous with one another. I'm trying to find it where you're talking about stuff like the stuff with the alien and angel. I knew about that stuff back in my mid-20s. So you're asking me to go back like 20, 25 years of where did I hear that? I couldn't tell you. So I just have to look it up now. But I just know that those definitions that they had for alien or angel were synonymous with one another.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just skeptical of that, to be honest. Like,
I can see where he's coming from with that as an alien and angel. Yeah, there's definitely, but I would say that's more not urban myth, but urban knowledge rather than, it's like the same sort of thing as when people say you use 10% of your brain. You don't use 10% of your brain. It's
right.
It's colloquial, which I can never say correctly, but colloquial knowledge.
Well, the problem is because when people mean 10%, they don't mean fractally, which is what what it is in reality. It is 10%, but it's 10% fractally, so it's 10% of the matter across the entire brain.
Well, it depends on your interpretation of the data. It depends on your interpretation of the data. Did you read a book? Did you interpret that? I'm only whining. Sorry, joking.
Peace and respect, Bill. If you wouldn't mind, Messenger, if I could address what he last said.
Go for it, Richard.
No,
don't ask John. It's fucking my channel. John, you shut up. Richard, you go on ahead.
He addressed the question to John, or I wouldn't even ask.
No. You go on ahead, Richard. You're basically a co-host on this fucking channel, man. You're here 50% of the time. So, yeah, you step in anytime you want.
Thank you, brother. Okay, so two things I would say. Christopher Hitchens was very close to saying something important when he said the message that Jesus gives to the general people, like don't plan for the future, abandon your mother and father, children, etc., and follow me, would be only moral in one particular situation, and that would be that they had the present opportunity to ascend into heaven when it was being spoken. Also, it would that idea would justify this generation shall not pass before these things have all come to pass. That's the first thing that I would say. So, other than that, when we have these conversations, and it's very, very difficult for us, being all of us, I think, European descent, having European Christian explanations of Christianity. But the problem with that is when you say that a Christian explained this to you and you have an accurate view of it, well, then that can't be true if you simultaneously hold that Christians are suffering confirmation bias. So then the explanation that you personally have about what the text means was given to you by someone with confirmation bias. So If that's true and you think those people are not dependable in their mental processes, then why would you believe them about what the story means? So if we can grant that at any level, then a person certainly should be able to consider other views of it that possibly would comport with reality more than the Christian view normally does.
I mean,
That's not me making noises. That's the dog scratching himself. I don't know if that came
I've
over the
seen
mic.
dogs do that.
Yeah, I don't know if that came over the mic, but that could have been misconstrued as a different noise.
It was a very gentle noise.
I mean, so I don't necessarily think that everyone has a confirmation bias for a start.
Okay. Name me a Christian that doesn't. Just one. So you do think Christians do have confirmation bias. You do think that. And you'd be right. But why are you taking the word of someone who has a confirmation bias?
I mean, I don't take anyone's word for anything personally.
Okay. So then you
But
believe
then that would mean
in,
I wouldn't take yours or John's either, right?
well, it depends. Do John or I or anyone have any evidence to back up our claims? That's what it really comes down to, yes?
Yeah, which is debatable.
Okay, so if I said that according to the text there is heaven, and according to the text a person could go there, and according to the text that's better than anything else you could possibly have, including family, money, whatever. It's better than any of those things. And then I said you could go there if you dropped family, money, etc. And in the moment it were true, then that is a better explanation of the saying than how about you assign this value and then die of old age with it never realized, which is what Christians think happened. It's a better explanation, right?
Sorry, I'm not following this. I don't think. A better explanation for what exactly?
For the promise. It's more plausible that the promise could happen in not 2,000 years ago, but is actually talking about a very specific time frame when a person could actually go to heaven. I'm just doing an internal critique. I'm not asking you to agree that the text is true. I'm just looking at it in an internal critique from your previous knowledge of the text.
So you're asking me, is it more plausible that it's true because the text says that it is?
No, not at all what I said. What I said is in an
All right,
internal
okay.
critique. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, carry on.
What I said was in an internal critique, the only time that would be moral and plausible is when a person could ascend.
I guess.
So I'm just pointing out that Christians say Christ was a prophet, but then according to the Bible, if Christ was a prophet, he'd never be wrong. And he was wrong about the ascension happening within the people's lifetime that he was talking to,
Yeah.
if it happened 2,000 years ago. This is a really good reason to say that this is a conflict.
Yeah. That's
Okay.
fair, yeah.
Okay. So according to the Bible, if it was said 2,000 years ago by the hero of the story, then the hero of the story is discluded by the Bible as being a prophet.
I mean, that seems reasonable to me. I mean, I personally, I'm not entirely convinced that Jesus actually existed, but that's another debate altogether.
Well, I think most people who do not have a biased view, except for a few take certain evidence to be important. Say, for instance, Richard Carrier, who thinks it was an actual being, but he says he thinks it was an actual being, not that person did any magic tricks. I'm not saying Richard Carrier believes in magic. I'm not trying to straw man him, but he does believe that possibly, or it's a really good chance, that a person, Jesus ben Yosef, Joshua ben Yosef, was a real person, which is fine. Right. It just doesn't prove or disprove anything. But I think the majority of scholars that aren't biased would say that these things are conflicts, and those conflicts cannot be justified. And on the whole, I would agree with them. And that would be the very reason that I was an anti-theist, or at least an atheist, for some 30 continuous years. But that doesn't mean it can't be justified.
I'm only really atheist on certain propositions.
That's fair. Okay,
it depends on what the proposition is as to whether I consider myself atheist or agnostic upon that proposition.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'd love to go over that sometime.
Short version, atheistic Christian God. Long version, agnostic in general. There you go.
Yeah, I'm a local atheist, I suppose, is what you would call it. A local atheist. I used to consider myself a hardline agnostic. My opinion used to be that I can neither prove nor disprove the existence of God, and neither can you. And that was my position. Hardline agnosticism. That I can't prove it, and neither can you. Like, no one can prove it. And in a lot of situations, that is my position. On a lot of propositions, that is my position. That they are unfalsifiable. In which case, if it is unfalsifiable, it isn't reasonable to hold it to be true, right?
Well, yes, but are you talking about?
You cannot know.
Do you believe that
there know whether it's true or not?
Do you believe that there could be such thing as non-material evidence, or is all evidence material?
That's a damn hard question. Because
opening that up,
just to say that, Richard, just to bring everybody in. Thanks RCA for joining.
Yeah, sorry.
No. I was thoroughly enjoying the conversation with both of you going. I don't even know if Messenger Reveals is still here. I know Sammy's here because he's been texting me, and RCA just joined, so he's definitely here. I think Messenger's maybe falling asleep because we're that boring.
I'm sure.
I was listening.
Good. You're no. I was thoroughly enjoying what the conversation was going. But just as you said, Richard, could you repeat your last wee statement there, please?
Sure. Peace and respect to RCA and Sammy Jenkins.
Thank you, Richard.
What I asked Bill, is it okay if I call you Bill?
Yeah, everyone does, mate. That's my name.
I call him cunt.
Yeah, I mean, people call me that too.
Well, then you certainly must be great friends who trust and love each other, or else you wouldn't get away with that.
I put him up in my house for 3 days.
In Australia, you call your friends cunt and people you don't know mate. So.
Oh, correct.
Okay.
Sorry, Richard, your last statement. Go on ahead.
So what I asked is if a person would be reasonable in accepting only material evidence, or if they would accept evidence that was immaterial in its nature.
Now, that question I'd like to post to everybody. There is only 2 theists in here. I would like, if God loves me or anybody else wants to join in, that would be a theist. I don't want any more atheists or agnostics in here. I want an atheist to make it 3 and 3. I'll fucking leave if it needs to be. But don't laugh at me. I'm no crack. I've just brought you on to talk. This is all about the view time, man. It's all about the view time. I'd like to post that question to everybody. I personally, as people know and have heard my story, and me and Richard have had this conversation, I know Messenger's seen it. I think Sammy's seen it, but the whole fucking 5 a.m. drunken woo conversation. But personally, if I experience something, and I explained it to Messenger Reveals earlier, if I've experienced it, and it's evidence enough for me because I was there. And I know I don't want to say, were you there? But I was there. But that personal experience I would never take and try and persuade someone, oh look, this happened, it must be true. It was true for me at the time, and it's what's left me on the agnostic and not full-blown atheist. Yeah, obviously atheist towards some of the points with the Christian God. It's controversial and it's contradictory, and that's an awful long conversation. But in general, I would consider myself agnostic because of the things as you describe, Richard, as supernatural evidence. I've personally experienced them, and that's what's left me where I am. And I'd like to pose that question that Richard asks to everybody in the chat to see where they stand. We'll work our way around. John, Messenger, you would be next.
Okay. So what's the specific question? I missed that.
The specific question is, would you accept evidence that was immaterial in nature, or do you only accept material evidence to believe or disbelieve something?
Well, I don't think that we hold to beliefs based on evidence alone. I think that psychology would suggest that we believe in things that we hold to be true, even if we don't have evidence, even if it's just given to us by an authority figure through words or through expression. You know, we grow up believing in the Easter Bunny and Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy because an authority figure told us those things were true and real. So a belief doesn't require material evidence.
That's
Now,
a perfect John answer. However, we were talking about evidentialism.
well, the thing is no, we can hold to truths that are not based on material evidence, but it's something that we can't prove.
But you would never expect me to believe and accept something that you have personal experience of with no evidence to back. Like, you can have been through something that you know is definitely happened and definitely true and leads you down that specific path. But you would accept that sometimes when you try and explain things to people, it comes across as fucking madness.
Brother Math, I love you, and I'm afraid I didn't state it very well, possibly, and I'd like to say that although I understand, I think what you're saying in personal anecdotal evidence, it's not exactly what I meant. When we look at, and I mean it's in the venue, of course, but when we look at forensic science, most of forensic science is not physical evidence, but immaterial evidence that we are considering in forensics. If in strict materialism, you would have to see a human, in the case of, like, say, a stabbing, you'd have to see a human being right there with the knife in their hand, plunging it into another person.
No, I know that's a very thing, and people would do forensics, and there's an examination and all the rest of it. What I'm talking about with things like that is personal experience.
Right.
You know, I can't use my personal experience.
So when I say would a person accept immaterial evidence, you know, now we're talking about motivation, we're talking about opportunity. You know, those things are all immaterial, but certainly things that we actually consider. So that's what I'm actually asking.
well, right. Like if I was abducted by aliens or I saw Bigfoot in the woods, could I convince anybody here that those things were true? Absolutely not.
Yeah, I don't know if you've heard, John, but I've said before on stream the story of back in the day when there's no internet in the porn magazine. We spent an entire day at my mum's uncle's house who had passed away, who she looked after up until the day he died. And that night she fell asleep. She had a dream from her uncle. He told her where it was hidden. I woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning with a porn mag getting hit in the face. There's no way in the earth my mother could have found that, the whole thing and all. And that's a supernatural thing for my whole mother's family of witches. But that evidence could all be, you know, that's all supernatural. That's all circumstantial. There's no physical, I can say she followed this line. I can say she followed this evidence. It just wouldn't happen. So I would be open, as what Richard describes too. I hope I'm not straw manning or getting wrong, but supernatural.
No, you just
evidence.
gave a great example of an anecdote of immaterial evidence that you accepted. And you believe the situation was a certain thing because of what you saw. That was a great example.
I hope I'm right. I'm hoping I'm going in the right direction. But I'm open to that. And as I say, I wanted it to pass around to everybody. We sort of went off on a tangent. RCA.
In all fairness, I'd answer my own question. In all fairness, I should have to.
Well, by asking it, I assume that you are.
Well, yes, but that lends to no answer. That's just, yeah. I think my question is valid, obviously, but that's not an answer. An answer would be, I believe there is immaterial evidence to things, such as emotional states, whether or not someone might care for me or doesn't care for me, whether or not I'm getting information that is valid to reality, can be tested against reality. And although the information is immaterial, if it comports to reality, I accept it.
Going on that, RCA, you're next.
Okay, I just want to ask a couple of clarifying questions, if that's all right, Richard.
Yes, sir.
It just feels
Um,
it's like you're a wee homeschool garage band following fucking Ramstein. But go on ahead there. Not to put any pressure on you.
So when you say immaterial, do you mean just like disembodied noises or disembodied feelings or something like that?
Well, what I would mean more like is you have the feeling this person loves you. So to find out if this person loves you, sometimes you might say something a little bit contrary to see if they put up with it. That would be immaterial evidence that they love you if they are willing to like put up with your crap.
Okay. Yeah, I think some things immaterial can be seen, like that, like love. You can tell that somebody loves you just by them being there or doing the small things for you. Like it doesn't even matter that, like you don't even have to do anything. You can tell by the way they look at you or the way they say a certain thing to you. Those are all immaterial things and the looks between them. But if we're talking about in a godly sense, I think, it's kind of cliche to say, but extraordinary things need extraordinary evidence to be believed.
It's not only cliche, it's inaccurate.
I don't know. I think
we accept average we accept average evidence to extraordinary things all the time.
Could I have an example?
Oh gosh, I'll get back with you on that one. Give me
Okay. But no, I think
I'll give you one. I'll give you one.
Okay.
Person was accused of murder. They hated the other person. I mean, everything would look like that they probably murdered that person. They made death threats, wrote hate notes, all kinds of stuff. Other people heard that person say they were going to kill him. Unfortunately, they were on a surveillance camera in a restaurant across town when the guy got killed.
There's nothing extraordinary about that.
That's what I'm saying. The extraordinary part is, that there's all this
There's
mounting
nothing extraordinary
evidence
about that. The extraordinary part is, there's nothing extraordinary about that at all.
What I'm saying is there'd be this mountain of evidence against the guy, but then this little tiny mundane detail made it impossible. He couldn't have done it.
Right, but that's actual physical evidence, though, right? Because they.
Okay, it's a crappy example. I'll try again later.
I love your honesty,
My
Richard.
example may help.
But no, like if we're talking like, philosophically, like say like if we're talking about in a
Okay,
godly sense, if I
right.
were to-
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Will anybody sacrifice their spot for 10 minutes?
I can, if you want.
Who's
Yeah,
Bill?
I will too. I do have one thing I just want to say in answer to that to Richard, but then I can go if you like.
Yeah, I've got the Atheist Edge, Master Sergeant Jim in the background.
Oh.
And I
Yeah,
don't mean...
that's fine.
Yeah, right.
I can go.
Shush. Okay, you do your thing, quick.
Yep. So first thing, does anyone know the name? I think it's called the Hubble Horizon, possibly. The limit to which we can see the universe. Because the further we look, the further back in time we're going. We can't look in the other direction.
Speed it up.
So there's a limit. Anyway, that limit, whatever it's called, is a form of evidence for the existence of what they call a level 1 multi-universe.
I've seen
So
people
won't go
say,
into
I've seen
all that,
Christians
but-
say that God created the universe 6,000 years ago and he took the speed of light up to this point and then he set the whole thing in go. Craziness.
Yeah,
Right,
that's
just
sort
to
of
be...
a-
No, Sammy. Sammy.
Yep.
Sammy.
Yep.
Round it up.
Yep.
Round it up. I've got fucking Jim for 10 minutes, and I'm an awful asshole for saying he's more famous than you. But, yep, that's me. I'm blood. Go!
No, go for it. That's an example of evidence. We can't. We don't know where the edge of the universe is, but
It's
the
known as
fact
the
that we don't
observable
know where
universe.
the edge of the universe is an accepted form of evidence.
As a
So-
funny anecdote, the observable universe is what you're talking about, but we've found a star in the observable universe that, according to its metallurgy, as in what metals that's inside it relative to the percentage of its mass, it's older than the universe. It's coming
Yeah.
in at older than the universe. So this is science, man. This is just the way it is. We don't know everything, and we're learning. Everybody needs to go and chill to Watchtower Watchmen. Yes, did I say that correct?
Close enough.
Fuck me, man. Put a link in the chat when I kick you, right? I'm getting Jim
I
in.
shall.
Everybody, man.
All right.
Lot of love for Sammy. Lot of love for Sammy. All right. Bye, bye.
Peace, guys.
Jim,
What up?
what up, man? We're all hiding our faces. Will we all? Does everybody feel comfortable showing their faces?
My lighting's too bad for me to show my face.
Well, that's a good thing, man. Nobody wants to look at you anyway. Hide in the
I'm
shadows.
talking about I'm sexy as fuck.
Hide in the shadows.
Dude, I never knew you had such a cool accent. This is the first time I'm actually hearing your voice.
Oh, well, thank you very much, man. It's what's known as Culture Northern Ireland and half pissed. With a few joints
is-
and at least 2 bongs. This is what you get.
That is tight, man. It makes me want to grab a few fingers of Glenlivet or something.
Well, it's not quite the British accent where I sound smart. It's more the drunken Irish where I sound like a troll with a brain. That's the. I'm aiming for troll with a brain that owns an Irish pub that everybody plays poker in. That's or not
Or
poker.
Jameson's. No, Jameson's is Irish, right?
Jameson's would be Irish, but the patching that I'm making, or sorry, the patching
Scottish,
that my dad's making in the back shed with the old 1920s brewery, that's more Irish.
Nice.
Pochine is properly Irish.
And do you know what right, this is a funny side note that's totally not relevant to this at all, but I've started working in a new depot, and the guy that has worked there for 22 years, this back room has never been clear. It's like a junk room, right? It's just in the back area in the yard. It's sort of off the wee spot. And he's decided he's putting shelving up in his new shed. And there's shelving in this room. And he was like, I'm going to take this shit for free. So he started to take it down. So we went into it. And I have found bottles that are stamped 1910. And there's 24 bottles. They're glass bottles. They're brown with red lids and stuff and all. Like, them things must be... They're fucking ancient, like, and they smell of patching. They definitely smell of patching. And the guy that has worked there for 22 years said when the building was bought, the guy that used to own it was an alcoholic mechanic. So he probably made his own homebrew. So they're going to be repurposed as homebrew bottles again.
Awesome. So what the hell did you... I think I might be scheduled to be in a group meeting with Steve McRae and Cheshire and some others, maybe Red's Rhetoric. I don't know, in like 9 minutes, but I don't think he hasn't gotten back to me. So fuck it. What are you guys talking about?
Well, tonight we had a main interview. The way I usually work it on a Tuesday, considering this is my weekend, man, I am drinking right now. I'm halfway down through a bottle of wine, so do expect slurring and all the rest of it. But Tuesdays is my weekend. I have a live stream. I try and get a guest on. Hopefully you'll be on some Tuesday night. I do it 10 o'clock UK time. We have an hour. The hour is basically your free time to put your point across. And then at 11 o'clock, we cut off for 15 minutes. I usually let the dog out. And then we have an after party where I drink. We bring other people on. We get asking questions. And we just generally have a hangout. As I say, I'm aiming for an Irish pub where everybody sits in the background, plays pool, and talks about the meaning of life.
Nice. So where are we at? Is this the regular show or is this the after show?
Oh, no, this is an hour and a half into the after party. Did you not hear the slurring? No.
Okay. All right. So all right. But I've got Me and one of my co-hosts, TJ, if we're slurring, that doesn't necessarily mean we're in the after show already. That might be the regular show.
Well, we try and aim to have everybody here, man. We've got 4 atheist agnostics and we've 2 theists. And I think in the chat we've got another 2 theists, and then the other 13 people are probably on the fence or atheist. But I do try and create an area that everybody is welcome. I know that when you were on with Richard, I did mention about banning Jill, Jesus is Lord. He is literally the only person that is not worthwhile in the chat. Every other person and everybody other statements are more than welcome. He's just a fucking waste of time. But I try and create a free space where people can chat and come and, yeah, not come, but yeah.
That's kind of the double-edged sword. I mean, like channels like yours and mine, where we try to be as pure a marketplace of free speech as legally allowed, but then we get these types that make it very difficult. And like, do you ban them or block them? You don't want to, but can you chill the hell out? And
Man,
spammers.
I totally get where you're coming from, and Bill backed me up on this. I had my first Discord debacle today, and that sort of thing come up. And, yeah, and it's very hard to find the point where you try and put it across without offending other people. No matter what way you say, if I had said one thing for one side, I'd have offended the other. And if I said one thing to that side, I'd offended the other. So I just said what I wanted to say and then contacted people in DMs and hoped that everybody understood me. And it is, as you say, a very double-edged sword.
That's true. My lack of subtlety doesn't help, let's be honest.
I didn't mention it was you at all, man. I was I didn't mention any names whatsoever.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
But I thought the meme summed it up particularly. What happened today in the Discord was, have you ever taken a brick and thrown it inside of a washing machine?
Yeah, that's basically what it was.
Yeah, I thought that was, yeah. Sorry, we're side joking
Big
here
block
and
of
private
concrete.
jokes, but yeah, it was very poignant. I do try and do it, and I do the same on my Discord, man. I do the same on my Discord. I try and create an area where everybody is welcome and everybody's belief is welcome. And no, I worked it out today, Bill. 10% of my Discord is theists. It's only 10%, but it's 10%. That's something.
Yeah. I'm recognizing several of the other panelists. Who's that in the top right? Is that Richard?
That is Richard.
Oh, okay. Are you here, Richard? Oh, he might be snoozing.
As it goes round, we've got me, then we've got John, Messenger Reveals, then we've got Richard, then we've got yourself, we've got Rational Canadian Atheist, and then we've got Bill Ashby, who I think is doing... are we popping your live cherry tonight?
You are, yeah.
You!
Oh, awesome.
Normally I just talk in text chat. Right. But yeah, I thought I'd get on tonight and just give my voice a go.
Well, thank you for your cherry, man. It tastes very sweet.
But it does.
We lost Richard. He's going to drop out.
I'm
He's
good.
going to reload. He can't hear you, Jim.
Yeah, that's a big landmark getting out there. You know, probably the first full year of doing this. Oh, just especially on recordings. I don't know if you guys are the same way, but when you hear playback of your own voice, it does not sound like you, and you're like, oh, it's so twingy and whining, nasally.
I don't
And
need
it
to.
takes a while to get used to your own voice and what you look like on camera and everything.
I don't need to listen to myself
Whenever
back. Everybody tells me my voice sounds like a fucking Irish culty bastard. So
Whenever I hear my own voice in my head, I sound like my cousin. I know that sounds really strange, but like when I hear my voice back, I'm like, I don't sound like me. I sound like my cousin, which probably makes sense. But you know,
my camera auto focuses like a mad bastard. So if I move very quickly, it might autofocus. There we go.
How often do you get asked to say, keep your hands off my Lucky Charms, they're magically delicious?
That's the first time I've ever been asked, because Lucky Charms.
Really?
Yes, because man, go and buy Lucky Charms in fucking Northern Ireland. You have to pay him. It's like a £5 for a box of fucking cornflakes. You know, You can go and buy a box of cornflakes for about 33p
not
if you go Tesco brand, and they're looking a fiver for fucking Lucky Charms. Fuck you and your Lucky Charms. Me and me Lucky Charms.
£5. Isn't £5? Let me see. Last time I was in London, a pound was worth way more than $1, but I think it's kind of evened out now, right?
It's about $7, £5 currently.
Okay. And the euro's dropping now too, so
Yeah,
I wish
well,
it would have been
it's all the
like it
markets,
is
it's
now
all the
when I lived
hearsay,
in
it's-
Germany.
Yeah,
Everything's
Euro's dropping
expensive over
because of
there.
Brexit.
Yep.
It only matters if you go outside country, and if I could have my happy way, I would just go on holidays down south in a canal boat, park up every fucking night at the end of a canal, find an Irish pub close by, and go listen to some 60-year-old man who's been there for years playing the fiddly D music. I don't need to go to fucking Cyprus and all that shit. No, I'm too old for that
Right.
stuff. Look, I've no hair. I'm
Exactly.
too old for that stuff. Welcome back, Richard.
Sorry, I had to drop out. I couldn't hear the Master Sergeant.
Can you hear him now?
You can hear me now?
I do, sir.
Can you say
Awesome.
double
How are you
penetration?
doing, man?
I'm better than I deserve, brother. How are you?
I'm well. I wasn't expecting to get on. That's why. Sorry about the lighting. I don't have my lights up, but I did get the mic working. And shoot, I'm looking at MathPig's channel and criminally undersubscribed. What is this shit? 190?
Is it
We need-
190?
okay,
The last time I checked was 184.
It's 190 right now.
Oh.
Shill
we're-
him out, Master Sergeant. Shill him out.
I'm thinking
gonna-
of doing a 200. If I get 200 subscribers, I'm going to do a live stream with my face because it's starting to get appeared everywhere and all. And I'm going to do it just in my boxers. 200, ask me anything in me boxers.
They say the first 100's the hardest to get, so you're over that hump.
In saying
But,
that, man, what I
I'm-
used to do when I was bored would go into Christian sub for subs and chat and have a bit of crack.
Oh yeah.
And I would say at least I would say out of the 200 I have, 60 are just Christian sub for subs that they do. Not that I would sub them back, but I wanted to build a base up of like people who listen to me and people who have the crack with me online are generally atheist or agnostic. And any of the
Yep.
Christians that would be out there probably think I'm a troll with a brain, hopefully. But that's why I would go to outside the scenes. There's one video on my channel if you go and look at it. I can't remember his name, but he has now banned me from his channel, won't have me in. And I used to go in.
Why?
Why? Because he thought I was going to make a fool out of him because he was a Christian.
Yeah. Well, see, yeah, I guess that's true. Even like Richard had a little hesitation when the first time he came on the show, and when he realized, hey, well, okay, granted, there are atheist channels out there that well, there's theist channels out there too that just and try to ambush their guests, but
Gotcha.
we're definitely not one of those.
Gotcha. I hate
Yep.
them. You know, it's
Yep.
gotcha moments.
No, Atheist Edge is definitely not one of those shows, especially when you consider their promotion of the Atheist Christian Book Club.
I did see that earlier. I watched a good 25 minutes, but then I had to go and remove the loofah. And
So the one that went out today, that's just an hour-long argument from incredulity. I seriously doubt anyone watched the entire hour. It's kind of painful.
well, I was genuinely whenever I come in because I'd actually left Angie 666. Do you know Angie 666?
I've heard the name
She does a
buzzing around Twitter.
Aye,
maybe.
she does be about. She has her own wee channel where we hang out. She does ladies' nights and stuff like that. Does a lot of good for
Okay.
charity. 24 streams to raise money for people. Tried to
Yeah.
help out with the Sci Strike thing and helped out with people when they broke their car and stuff. You know, good channel. She does Ask Her Granny.
Awesome.
You know, and one of her streams is
Right.
Ask Her Granny because she's of that age. But I was on that channel and then I was like, look, I have to go. I've got the stream going. And then get up and I have the phone and I had Rammstein playing in the shower. And I got a ding. And Deutschland. Yes, you interrupted Deutschland. And I turned around and look at what the stream was. And then I hit it and it was like, oh, fuck me, you're premiering now. And then I made that message. I genuinely was in the shower, not messing.
Oh, I was wanting to ask too, like, do you put your phone in a baggie or it's outside of the shower? How do you do that?
Oh, no, well, if the shower head is there,
Yeah.
the shelf is like here.
Oh, okay.
So,
I would be so afraid of getting it wet.
oh, no.
I put mine on. and leave it on the bathroom counter, and I got a Bluetooth connected to a big Bose speaker, so I
I'm
can hear it through over the shower.
well, I'm not sponsored or anything like that, but if OnePlus actually hears this, give me a fucking, coming. But the OnePlus 6, about a month ago, I dropped in a bucket of oil. Like I was draining a car, it was in my breast pocket, and I leant forward, it fell out and fell in a full bucket of oil. It was submerged in a bucket of oil. Now I put my hand in, pulled it out, give it a wipe down, and for about a week and a half, the sound was muffled, and then I sprayed liquid buffer, which dissolves oil, up into the speaker. It fucking worked, man, and it made it as good as new again. I left it upside down, sprayed some
That's
liquid
incredible.
buffer in it, and left it hanging there for about a half hour, and it was as good as new. Yeah, so fair play
That's
to
crazy.
OnePlus 6. They're good phone.
Guys, I hate to do this. I promise. Let's book something and let me get on from the start. But I gotta
I've no
pop
guest for
smoke
next
right now.
Tuesday.
Before I go though, MathPig, I am going to make it my mission to get the word out and get those numbers up.
In all honesty,
and
man,
also-
in all honesty,
Yeah.
I don't give two flying fucks. Because I'd
that's
much
cool.
rather have people that I can communicate. You know, when you get older, you'd rather have two good friends than 50 friends that don't care.
Right on.
So feel free to shill if you want. You did the video for me. I appreciate. Messenger reveals. I know you're quiet and bored fucking stupid because we've been tangenting. But go and look out the rip I did of them too. Jim says double penetration and dual penetration, and then there's some sheep getting sucked out through a hole.
It is the funniest shit ever. It is the funniest. Did you see it yet, Richard? You didn't
I thought it
even
was
comment
great.
on it.
I
Okay.
thought it
All
was
right.
I'm working on one, right? Not to mention his name, but I'm working on one for the person who will not be named, who actually says, and I've got a snippet on him, if you want to debate atheists till the cows come home, all you need to do is gift scallop, gift scallop, gift scallop. Or you could admit that the truth is that Lucifer's the real king and God is a bad man. But I just can't find the background music to go with it.
Well, the fact that you do not care about your sub count makes me want to shout you out even more. That's really good. You're doing what you love, and that should be the bedrock of any good channel.
As
Oh,
I've said
let
to
me
everybody
throw
in
some-
here, I'm a troll with a brain. I do this for a bit of crack, and I do this for... I don't know. It's a hub to have people on, and I'd like to create a roundabout where everybody can interact and have the crack. You come for the communication, you come for the banter, you stay for the crack.
There's another brand new channel. As long as I'm on here, I can get it out. This Saturday, the Liberal Atheist Comic, if you look for him on YouTube, he's going to premiere his very first produced video, and he's very excited about it. So I'm helping him getting the word out.
Send me it on
And, so
Twitter,
it's
and I'll put
the
it in
lib-
the description.
What was it?
Send me that on Twitter, and I'll put it in the
Okay.
description.
I sure will. Excellent. Thank you.
Messenger.
Yeah, Liberal Atheist Comic, and it'll be this Saturday at 9 Central in the morning. But yeah, I got to run, guys.
In a
Let's
bit.
do this.
Next
let's do
Tuesday.
this from
I've
the
no
start.
guest next
Yeah, let's
Tuesday.
book something.
I've no guest next Tuesday.
Tuesday, I can do during the day.
Well,
which
it would be
probably
5. Are you
perfect for
Eastern? Where are you?
I'm Central United States. Same time zone as Chicago. So
that
you're
would be the
probably
same
6
time as-
hours ahead of me.
6 behind. Yeah, 6. Yeah, he's 6 behind
6
us.
ahead.
Well, I usually do it at
Yeah,
10,
we're 6 ahead. You're 6 behind.
so it would be 4 p.m. for you.
Oh, that would be perfect. I can do that.
Right,
I can
next-
totally do that.
Next Tuesday.
Yeah, so go ahead. Yeah, book
we-
me, man.
We'll talk about that later, but yeah, I definitely
Okay.
enjoy that. We'll talk about some
All right.
dual penetration. It'd be fantastic.
Some double penetration and sucking things out of a hole.
Okay.
9-inch hole.
We're going to give...
All right, guys.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks very much for turning
All right,
up.
take care.
Appreciate it. Messenger, I know you're bored stupid. I know you're absolutely bored stupid. And we've tangent like fuck. But this is the crack of the after party, you know. It's the way it goes.
It's all good as long as you're all having fun.
I'm having fun. I hope not to distract from you. I know this is all supposed to be about you or our guest star tonight.
Oh, I don't look at it that way. I'm good.
Oh, no, man. Definitely. If nobody knows, this man actually took some time off work. He put in his holiday time. I know he's minted and he works mining and he says money's no object. But he took time off work. He made the effort to come here. And I thoroughly appreciate anybody who is willing to give me any of their time. You've given me 2.5 hours. That's, you know. Very
I
much
always tell
appreciated.
people, if you're willing to make time, I'll make time, and I'm pretty sincere when it comes to that.
Well, is there anybody else wants to ask anything? If not, we'll probably take some questions from the audience and round it up in the next 15 minutes or so. If we're
Yeah, I
all
think you
happy
were
with
cutting
that.
in and out there. Your mic's
John,
cutting in and out.
I think your mic is overrunning his, John.
No, what
Mine's
happened is I
overrunning yours?
leant forward. Can you all hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, if I lean here and lean here, it's a different. It's a cool mic, okay? Cool mic.
No, it was John's beautiful children who were just overrunning you. That's all.
How many? You say you have 2 kids, John? Yes, was that correct? In the house with you now?
Oh, we have 4, 5, 6 of them in the house right now.
6. Yeah, that could be fun cleaning up after they go to bed. I've only one that takes me a half hour to clean the living room after she goes to bed.
Right.
Well, we'll work our way around the screen. Everybody knows who I am because you're all fucking here. John, is there anything you want to do your bit, say your bit? Is there anything you want to round up, make a point, say a statement, tell everybody they're wrong and whatever?
Well, when it comes to human behavior, if something's not going well in your life, I probably have an answer for what's going on and why it's occurring. So, if you're struggling with stress, anger, anxiety, depression, if you're dealing with mental illness and your counselor's not helping, go find somebody that will help you. Don't just give up altogether on that stuff, and don't think you can fix it yourself or figure it out yourself. People have answers. You just got to find them for those who have them.
Do me a favor before you go. Will you make a message in the chat saying bye on or hello or something under both your accounts and give everybody a chance
Absolutely.
to give you a sub because
I sure will.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the plug on that, MathPig.
No
It's been a
bother.
pleasure being here. Like I said earlier on the other show, you've been gracious, you've been authentic. I appreciate that more than in human beings, regardless of what you believe. Whether you agree with me or disagree with me, that's okay. You've been genuine and authentic, and that I appreciate.
Well, when we hit 200, you can come on and go no pants with me too, man. We'll have a party. Anybody who's been on.
I'll figure out how to explain that one to my wife.
It's all right. It's internet love. It's different. Well, everybody's welcome for the stream. You know, Bill, I'm talking shite. Jump in and do a shill for your non-channel, and everybody say hello to Bill.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to say really. I'm not really particularly anybody. You'll just see me around the chat, and you'll see me around Mass Discord. Just come say hi.
Yeah, if there's anyone in the chat wants to, Tony, you know you've got the link. Throw a link to the Discord in the chat, and Richard, if you want to do a wee shill for your love and.
Let's go RCA first.
RCA, do your thing.
Oh, I'm just the nobody. I'm the guy that kind of just goes around and walks around the chats and the discords. But you'll see me in Mass or Knox or Tom Unboxes or tons of them. So
RCA does be about. Richard, that
Well,
didn't buy you
I want
much
to say
fucking
peace,
time, but
peace and respect to you all. I appreciate you having conversation with me. Let me hang out with you guys for a minute. It's been a blast. I want you to know that I really think that we're all going to be great friends one day. I really look forward to that. And as much respect as I can have for a man on this planet, I'd have to say that RCA and Bill and Messenger and especially MathPig have earned that from me and several other people in this community. So I wanted to say thanks. Drop by Demolish Doctrine if you think the stuff that I'm saying is weird and you'd like to critique it. I want to become sharper. I want to become better at what I'm trying to explain. Although I'm convinced of it, that doesn't mean that I necessarily believe that it has to be true. It only means that I'm convinced. So I welcome all critiques. Thank you all very, very much.
Richard, as always, very articulate, very to the point, and very honest. Thank you very much for just being who you are, man. And thanks everybody for coming on. I really appreciate it. I'm going to just cut it and then have a secret party for about 20 minutes with everybody in my other. But no, I'm only joking. Thank you all for coming. Thanks, Messenger, for being the guest of honor. Bill, your cherry
Yes.
tastes lovely. That's a lovely, sweet, sweet cherry.
You know I'm good. You know I'm good.
RCA, as always, man, definitely. We need to get you out and about more often. And Richard, peace and respect, my man. Everybody, thank you very much for turning up. And yeah, go laugh at Master Sergeant Jim. We'll talk to you all later. Thanks very much.